It all began in earnest in 1994. The place was Kiribati, a nation made up of 33 groups of tiny atolls spread over a vast expanse of the Pacific Ocean. 3,000 kilometers separate the islands on the east from the islands on the west, and this creates major time differences. But Kiribati was unique. Through the middle of the islands ran the international date line. As a result, the country could only be governed effectively for 3 days each week. On the remaining days, it was always the weekend on another island. Administration was a nightmare. And so, in November 1994, President Kabunare proposed to Cabinet that the international date line be moved. It would mean that all the islands in this expansive archipelago would share the same day. Just south of the equator, the international date line would move east to include the most easterly point of Kiribati, Caroline Island. Then everyone on Kiribati would get up and go to work on the same day. The change was passed to Parliament and approved. News of this major change was relayed to the rest of the world. Embassies, consulates, and cartographers were all advised. Nautical charts and atlases would have to be amended to show the new position of the date line. What happened next took the people of Kiribati and the world completely by surprise.
Pacific Island nations jockeying to be the first to greet the dawn of the new millennium.
The Chatham Islands say that they're the most...
The biggest beach party of the century.
I'm not going to be drawn into the whole argument about...
To take the cruise, how do you think?
Antarctica, earliest sunrise of the year 2000.
The King of Tonga isn't very happy about the date.
Apparently all of the hotels have already been booked out.
Kiribati is the clear winner.
Who's going to see this first light in Antarctica? Anyway?
Penguins and humpback whales.
The tilt of the Earth in January.
Argument involves United
We're going
Nations.
to get to Caroline Island for the
If
party.
it rains on the day.
The date line determines which nation will receive the first rays of the dawn of the new millennium. At this point, Tonga and New Zealand are both laying claim to this first light. Tourist reservations have already been made in both countries. It promises to be a tourism bonanza that will put the winner on the map. The first light of the new millennium has enormous symbolic significance. It represents the birth of a new era in the history of mankind, the dawn of hope for the next 1,000 years. This awesome light would now appear on Kiribati. It is unlikely that Kiribati will be able to fully capitalize on the tourism potential of this first dawn. But they will use their morning in the sun well, singing and praying for a millennium of world peace. Kabunare is a fisherman in Kiribati. In his lifetime, he has experienced the worst horrors of war, and against all odds, he survived. What happened to Kabunare is one of the most remarkable stories of survival and courage that have been told. It was 1945. The war in the Pacific was about to end. In the Battle for Tarawa on the Gilbert Islands, the American forces were recapturing this tiny atoll in the Pacific. 400 kilometers east, on the even smaller atoll of Ocean Island, the Japanese were preparing for the inevitable surrender. Kabunare was one of 130 Gilbertese phosphate miners who had been captured and were now slaves to the Japanese forces on the atoll. His job was to catch fish for the Japanese garrison. This is Kabunare's story.
When we returned from fishing, there was a feeling of unease. Everyone was tense. I could not eat, only washed myself and then grabbed my wraparound. A guard said, "Eat." "No thanks," I replied, and went to join the group of fishermen. We all felt the Japs were stalling for time. Then I saw the guards put 5 bullets in each rifle. They fixed their bayonets. Suddenly, a bayonet stabbed my back. A voice ordered, "Put your hands behind your back." My fishing companion beside me sensed something terrible. He said, "Kabunare, are we going to be executed?" I tried to console him. The body can be destroyed, but not the spirit. 30 of us were led away in 5 groups. About 40 remained at the government house. As we were being taken away, they started executing those at government house. They didn't even tie them up. They beheaded, bayoneted, and shot them. One body fell right beside me. We were taken to the western side of the island. Number 1 Japanese guard was standing with his sword and rifle. All 8 in my group stood in line on the cliff edge. I was second. We didn't know if they would behead us or bayonet us first. It was about 30 feet to the rocks below. Then the bayonet went into the side of my back. I leaned back into it, and it held me up. I didn't want him to pull it out and bayonet me again. When he pulled, I swayed, and he pushed me without getting the final bayonet stab. I fell down onto the rocks. I fell facing the ocean on this shoulder with my hands tied. Falling on my head would have been fatal. I was facing the ocean and was still blindfolded. I felt a body on top of me. I thought it was my Ellis friend. I